just by means of background on me, I've been in IT since about 1994. I was at Microsoft for 16 years, where I actually, one of my claim to fame is developing the SPLA channel. So that was the hosting channel within Microsoft. So hosters and service providers using Microsoft technology to create hosted services, most of it infrastructure, until towards the end when there was Office 365, then called BPOS and other such services. Then I joined a company called Parallels. I was the CMO of Odin, that was a cloud delivery platform that eventually got sold to Ingram Micro. I chose not to go work for a distributor for reasons that might or might not be obvious. And so Sergey, the founder of both Parallels and Acronis, asked me to join Acronis to help him transform the company. And that's where we lead into this guy, who we are. So Acronis has been around for, actually this year is our 15th anniversary, 1-5, of being incorporated. We're a Singaporean company out of Singapore, with our fiscal offices are actually in Switzerland. We started as a traditional software company, right? You bought some software, you put it on a PC or a server or a virtual server, you ran backup on it, created an image, put it on that server or another server, and you recovered. 4 years ago, Sergey came back, the founder, as CEO, and he decided to completely transform the company, both from an angle of having everything based on a hybrid cloud architecture, which means not only supporting workloads on-premise in the cloud, but also having a very scalable architecture. And then the second part was to use the service provider channel, because we're fundamentally a channel company, to provide these data protection services to end customers. And today, we have about 5,000 service providers transacting around the world, and that's from zero about 3 years ago. And so we're very proud of that. Like I said, our corporate headquarters are in Switzerland, our international headquarters are in Singapore. Most of our revenue is actually outside of the US. We serve all businesses, but our sweet spot is really small and medium businesses. Large businesses, where we're very strong, which I'll touch on, is edge cases and remote and branch offices. Feel free to interrupt at any time. I love questions. We are in over 25 countries. These are our main offices. We do have presence here in the UK, as well as other parts of the world. Arizona is actually the newest office, which we just opened a few months ago. And we'll be putting an R&D center in there as well. We have 4 R&D centers around the world, the US being one of them. We also have in Singapore, in Moscow, and in, I think it's Estonia or Bulgaria. Bulgaria. Yep. As backup or data protection is a fairly horizontal solution, we're everywhere. What's interesting is that we actually have significant presence in manufacturing and automotive. And I'll talk to a case study in a little bit about why. It wasn't intentional. It just happened that way. Because there's a need for our solution in process automation, in services that these guys function. And then we're seeing quite a bit of growth in automotive as well. One of the reasons we sponsored Formula One team starting about 1.5 years ago was because of this interest in our technology within that sector. The second part is how we serve customers. So core to our DNA is about making data protection easy. And easy doesn't only mean that you install it on your machine, push a button, and you're protected, and If something goes wrong, God forbid, and you want to recover a machine, you push another button and it's back. Easy also means easy to buy. And now this complicates life for us, but it's the right way to do it, especially when you serve small and medium business. So whether you want to get our technology from along with a piece of hardware, like through an OEM, whether it's through our new service provider channel, a standard distributor or reseller, or integrated with a technology partner, we have enabled all those models, and we continue to enable those models. Because for us, the flexibility of licensing model and how you transact is important, as it should never be a barrier to the end customer. Yep, here I'll just tell you, if you don't mind. We have a three-prong strategy in the way we grow. Remember, key is easy, efficient, and reliable. First one I talked about was about service providers. And there we start with Acronis Data Cloud, where Bekalu will show you what that is. It started as Acronis Backup Cloud, and we've now taken that platform, which was a one-service solution, and added more services to it. And the reason we did that is, if you think about data protection, it goes beyond just backup and recovery today. You have to make sure it's safe from viruses, from ransomware attacks, that it's stored somewhere where it's cost efficient, that storage is immutable, that no one can corrupt or touch your files. There's a lot more requirements than before. What's important with service providers is that they need to get started very quickly. So our solution can be turnkey, where literally I could get you all started as a service provider within 2 minutes. Hardest part would probably be reading the contract. Or you can take the software, install it in your own data center, and run it that way, which would take a little bit longer. We're continuing to focus on small and medium businesses. The reason for this is we know that if we can satisfy SMB, it's actually attractive to large enterprise. Where we don't have solutions compared to some of the bigger players is there's certain workloads that we don't protect today. So for example, we just added Oracle, and if you really want to play in the data center of large enterprises, of course you have to have Oracle, and there's some other areas. Important here is leveraging AI to really be complete and start getting much, much smarter about how you back up data, what kind of data you back up, which data is critical to have access to more quickly than other data, and using artificial intelligence to make sure you're consistently ahead of the game in terms of being protected. And then for enterprises, we're really looking at edge data applications and systems. So we're not working from the data center out, we're working out in towards the data center over time. And here we want to make sure we're fully scalable, that you can run either locally or remotely, and that you have everything you need to manage and protect your data, which includes storage. What we did is, as part of building a backup solution, we actually had to build a storage solution that was optimized for backup and archiving. We now have productized that solution and shipped the first version about 1.5 years ago. And we're continuing to improve on that. Any questions so far? No? So I touched on this new technology and architecture. So we're very much focused on innovation. I'll talk about Acronis Active Protection and Acronis Notary. These are two, let's call it, pieces of technology that no one else has in the market today in production, at least in the data protection space. Active protection is about protecting against ransomware, and it's done through machine learning, AI, and heuristics, so there is no signature file. It's a complement to antivirus and anti-spam. We don't cover those areas. Notary is, as far as I know, one of the first production uses of blockchain to notarize backups and files. What does that mean? How many of you are familiar with blockchain? Yeah, all of you, most of you, I think. What we've done is you have the ability within our products to essentially take a timestamp or a fingerprint of your backup or any individual file and put that hash into the blockchain. And we don't have our own blockchain, we use the Ethereum blockchain. And then that means that when you go to recover that file, you can check to see if anyone's touched it. And that it, or whether it's been tampered with. You also have a chain of command where you can see the changes made to these files. I touched on hybrid cloud architecture. This is really about being able to support multiple data sources. The world of where your life was on one machine is gone. It's everywhere. Today we support 21 workloads that range from a VMware VM all the way up to Instagram feed, and more on the consumer side, or parents who want to watch. But that's super critical because it is important for people to have control of their data at all times. We also designed it such that this supports mass scale on commodity hardware. So the idea here is as you get bigger and bigger and you have more and more devices to protect and all over the world, you have a way to add more services and more servers in a very scalable way. And this took... Yes?
Does it work on any hardware or only on the hardware that you've blessed and certified? Take it to the priests and the priests have blessed
That's a little bit of a loaded question. So the marketing answer is, of course, on any hardware. But we do have a set of hardware that we've blessed and certified. And we are actually expanding that program to add more. And the reason I say that is because, there might be some vendor with some special SaaS network card that doesn't work. But as far as all the major hardware vendors we work with and the smaller ones, we're constantly making sure they run. And if we get any phone call that there's a problem, we look at it right away. I think that's fairly accurate. But our intent, our specialty is data protection. We actually don't care about the hardware you use, right? Or even the front end you use. And that's why we want to make sure it's working. We're very proud of the awards we've started winning. You can see this is 2015. Before we launched any of this, we had only about 7 awards. Last year, we garnered 35 awards for this new technology, along with a bunch of reviews and mentions in analyst reports. So the reason I bring this up is one of the biggest challenges of a company like ours who reinvents itself is to make people aware that we're not this old technology that used to exist that was really good in 2007 and is dated. That technology is gone now. As of a few months ago, our full product line is on this new code base. And so we actually have the most modern technology for data protection in the market today.
John, do I use Acronis Active Protection with a data protection solution such as True Image, or does it include it?
It comes with it. Yeah.
True Image comes with it.
True Image comes with it?
Yes, Active Protection.
Includes Active Protection with it.
Okay, so I've got it and I didn't know.
Yes.
Which version you have?
2018.
Yeah, that will have it.
Yeah, you have it. He can show you where the button is. Is it on? Is it on by default? I don't remember.
Yeah, you can enable it yourself.
Yeah.
See you later.
I've been able to mine for a long time.
Yeah. Now, what we did, just in case you're not aware, because we did this, I think, a week ago. Might have been 2 weeks. I lose track of time. We have a version of Active Protection that's standalone and free. So what we did is we got a lot of feedback from customers that they needed the protection, but they didn't need the backup. And the reason they didn't need the backup is it was a stateless machine, it was something on the edge of the network, ATM as an example, or some point of sale system. And so really all they needed is the anti-ransomware protection as opposed to a full backup solution. So we created a version that's free that you can download today on our website and protect your machines. We might try to upsell you, but
You're very good at not trying.
the marketing side of me is like going, oh my God, don't write that down, I'll get fired. This is our vision, and really what has driven the development over the last few years. First, everything is under a unified centralized management portal. This is key. You can think of it like Office, right? Once you learn the system, adding more protection services should be very easy and have a very low learning curve. The other part is that we use RESTful APIs so that if a customer or an MSP uses another management panel, we can integrate in them. And two examples are Kaseya and ConnectWise. They're remote management and monitoring systems that their goal is all IT management goes through that one panel. And so we're integrated with them, and we've seen quite a bit of success that way.
So you always missed having backup?
Huh?
That missed having backup and proper data protection. Since I started talking to them 15 years ago.
Yeah, well, they have it there. Well, Kaseya is actually white labeled, so they call it their own, but it's ours. ConnectWise, I believe, uses our name. The interesting, I knew nothing about backup, by the way, when I joined Acronis, I'll be really honest. Not my core expertise. My expertise was channel and infrastructure. What I learned is part of the reason none of them had backup is, as an industry, was all fault. We just made it too difficult. And so it was always one of those services that a lot of service providers knew they need to have it, but sort of had it on the back burner because they just didn't have time to integrate it. Where now it can literally be a hero offer and a first-class citizen.
Just looking at what you're protecting, are you protecting any, say, SaaS services? So can you back
Yes.
to Office 365 or Salesforce? Or
Yeah, so yes to Office 365.
Yeah.
Today we do email, we're adding calendaring, SharePoint, and OneDrive. We will be adding G Suite shortly. Salesforce, I just met with them in San Francisco a few weeks ago. Our intent is to add them as well. Typically what happens with a lot of these big cloud vendors is our style is when you back up a third-party product or service, I'd rather do it in partnership with them, right? It's just a smarter way to do it. The problem with a company like Salesforce or even Microsoft with Office 365 is you say, we're going to back up your cloud service. They go, why would you do that? Our cloud service is perfect, right? It won't ever... we back it up ourselves, and I go, well, people do dumb things. They delete stuff. Your backup plans aren't as flexible as ours. So, for example, with Office 365, if you delete something, after 30 days, it's gone forever, right? And you can't get it back, and you can't stop that. So that's an example. The other thing is if you want to recover from Office 365, you actually have to call them as opposed to just going online and recovering. And then they have a set backup plan that you're tied to. If you want more frequent backup, there's just a level of flexibility that you get by using a third-party solution.
and a great partnership, so
Yeah.
doing it right behind the scenes, but allowing the customer to then control what they want to back up and how.
Exactly.
But the other thing that comes back to this is I actually find backup is almost completely uninteresting. It's about the restore. So
Yes.
there's still, we've just done a survey and there's still major issues around
Restore.
So is there anything you've got that raises the game in that area?
Sure. And I think you can highlight it a bit on
I'm gonna talk about it more
what
on
we're
the-
showing. But before I touch on Restore, you had a comment?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, one of the things we've noticed in the last year is that the economics of backup services and protection services don't seem to shake up particularly well for the consumer market. We've seen CrashPlan, who were the market leader, pull out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So how do you see your approach crossing that
That chasm?
That's a significant economic chasm.
Okay, good question. So restore, I'll just touch on it real quickly here. We spend a lot of time making sure that we can restore not only down to the file level on the full image, but as well as to different machines. And there's a lot of work here. We support, I think, 50 different versions of Linux. And every time someone comes up with a new one, we go figure out how to restore to that one. So it is key. The economics part is a really, really interesting question. The answer, though, is, how should I say this? Not that imaginative. Our consumer business is about 10%, maybe a little bit more of our overall business. So for us, it's more about brand awareness and reaching more people and individuals. And the reality is, if you look into our consumer business, even though technically it's not permitted, most of them are SOHOs. They're actually small businesses. But so that's one piece. And we've talked about, like I said, I'm a fairly transparent guy. When CrashPlan, no, was it Crash? It's Carbonite who's getting rid of full image, right? Or is it CrashPlan?
I think it was
CrashPlan.
CrashPlan.
Pulled their consumer business
Yes,
completely.
Right, but then I think
Very
it's,
little warning.
but I think it's,
And Carbonite stopped doing the full.
yeah, and Carbonite start doing the full image. And so the question that immediately came up at Acronis is, wow, should we stop doing full image as well? Because there's a trend here. And Sergey, our CEO, said, absolutely not. The core to a good backup is you back up the whole image. You might recover one file, but you need that whole image because you get the system settings, the configurations. Recovery is a lot faster, so it's super critical. So the way we grow is revenue-wise, and the way the economics work is from the B2B side as opposed to B2C.
Right.
But B2C is important. Like, you know, Acronis, your first-hand experience with Acronis is with our consumer product, right? Not our. Also, you see the user interface is fairly similar. So we are consumerizing IT. You had a comment or question? No? Let's go to the next slide.
Yeah, just to add on that, I think we're using one code for all our platform now, so it makes it really easy for customer to upsell and cross-sell.
Upgrade. Yeah, but there's some interesting use cases. There is one company whose name I won't mention actually has 1,000 copies of True Image. So clearly, it's not a consumer use case.
I think your point was well made, that if it's suitable for consumer, if it's easy to use for a consumer, it's going to be easy to use for the enterprise.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the fact that it's the same code base means it actually has to have the quality that enterprise requires. So,
Best of both worlds.
yeah.
But are you doing a lot of multi-tenanted approaches?
Yes.
Yes. It's all multi-tenant,
Yeah,
multi-tier and multi-tenant.
Yeah.
So for those of you, just in case, I hope I'm not insulting anyone. That means you can have more than one company on the same instance, and they're all isolated, like Office 365. And multi-tier means that if you're a company and you have your own channel, you can actually give an instance to that other channel, and then they can run with it. So it's like a pyramid, right? But not a pyramid scheme. It's like a pyramid. And so that's important with, for example, ConnectWise, where they have a bunch of resellers who then service customers. It's also important for telcos. A lot of times they'll have multiple branches, a wholesale branch, a retail branch. So for example, Telecom Italia, it's their Olivetti division that manages their instance of Acronis Backup Cloud, but then they essentially sell it out to the different divisions, and then they have different go-to-markets because they're serving different audiences. But it's all the same product on the same set of servers in the back end. This is our data center. So I'll just touch on our data center strategy. We do have 12 of our own colo. We don't We don't use bulldozers. And we have over 70 petabytes of data there in our own around the world. And this is because of more and more companies just want a turnkey solution.
Which data center providers are you using? Is it global like Acronis or?
It depends on the region. Most of them are Equinix. There is some soft layer, I think, in Asia still, but mostly Equinix. We buy Supermicro machines mostly. The other one, though, is, of course, there are 1,300 other data centers being run by service providers. And in that case, what they're doing is they're storing the backup in their data center. In most cases, we're still running the management portal because that's very lightweight and it's just easier. So that gives us reach around the world. It also avoids issues with GDPR and data sovereignty and so on. And it only takes 4 weeks to get one up and running. What you don't see here, which you'll see more of in the future, is public clouds. So we actually do have service providers who are backing up to the public cloud as well. Interworks.cloud is a service provider out of Greece. And if you go look at their backup offering, you actually have a choice whether your backup is stored in their data center or in Microsoft Azure. And we don't care. And it just depends what the customer preference is. Next slide.
So you haven't got Greece up there, so you regard those as...
Greece is down here. Yeah, well, these A's are us. Greece is their data center. Yeah, they're a service provider.
Just to add, I mean, if we need any data center, it only takes 4 weeks to get one up and running.
Yeah,
So
we just need a business case for it.
Yeah. Have you looked at some of the more esoteric locations for lower cost, but that still have good connectivity, like Malta and Cyprus and places like that?
We have, or Iceland, but our DCO team hasn't opened one there yet. And frankly, we prefer not having our own data centers because there's cost with that and management.
Just more the facilities do exist to actually locate.
Yeah.
Because they typically have lower overall rental. And
right, they're cheaper. But then you have to also make sure customers are comfortable with that. Now, in the case of Malta, and Malta is part of the EU, so that's okay. We haven't done anything yet in Malta. I always think of it as the party island, but it's true that they actually do have business there.
Politically, the EU thinks that Malta is an extremely corrupt society.
Yeah, so that's a part where if you have a data center there, people might have a lack of trust, right?
Data centers are fine. It means you can get away with anything you like in the data center.
Yeah, you see, there we.
Having put several data centers there.
Yeah. Now the good news is everything is encrypted at the source, on transport, and at the back, which means that even if somebody got into the data center and got to your content, they can't see it.
Yes.
Anyways, next slide. Let's see. So this is about how backup is complicated. This is the thing. This space, besides being boring, as you said, is the easiest thing to explain. You take your files, you put a copy somewhere else, and then if you ever need them, you go get them, right? That's backup. It's easy to explain. Problem is what goes on underneath. You have many data sources, you have many destinations, you have scale to think about. What are the right policies to achieve RTO and RPO? That is response time objective and response point objective. So how far back in time are you willing to go and lose? And how quickly do you need your data? And of course, if you want everything to be instant, it gets very, very expensive. If you only back up once a year and you can take a year to recover, it's super cheap, right? And then, of course, there's complex security and privacy. And then what we don't have here is like network is actually really important as well. When you have these branch offices or these remote locations, a lot of them could be on ADSL, they could be on Windows XP, and we do have some of those. And so then you need to have backup plans that adjust for that. I was talking to one partner who out of Ohio, They were telling me that they're an MSP. Every customer who comes to them, they tune the backup plan based on their network. Because, of course, if you have low bandwidth, taking a full image copy of everything, and then if you have a lot of changes on a daily basis, you won't have enough time to actually back everything up. And so you have to be pretty smart about it. Our system allows you to pick what you want, so we're very flexible that way. And then backup is not enough, right? So one of the things you're probably seeing in the market is that not just us, but everyone's talking about data protection, in some cases business continuity. It's really more, it's about disaster recovery, where your files are stored, how they're stored, what's the level of resiliency where they're stored, how do you share and sync your files, archiving e-discovery. It really is much more complex than before, which is why we've built a platform that expands to include the scope of everything you would do with your data. It is part of your lives now. Just disconnect and see how you feel. It's like even on a plane now, if I don't have internet, I get antsy. Where before that was my,
Don't fly British Airways.
yeah, not bad, huh? I haven't flown British in a
It's
while.
been really bad this
Fly Norwegian.
Norwegian? Yeah, okay. So I'm going to touch a little bit on our strategy and just a few slides here about being complete, innovative, and easy. So complete, I've touched on quite a bit. Innovative is some of the work we're doing to advance the technology. As a marketer, one of my biggest challenges is explaining complex technology easily and quickly. And that's part of why I'm here, is so that you can help me explain to people that we actually have fairly deep technology and we make it all look simple. Next slide. So this is, the easy part is about the management portal, which Bakalu will show you. But what I wanted to highlight here, besides some of these new features we just added in Acronis Backup 12.5, is some of the innovations that we'll bring this year. So we haven't announced these yet, but you can write about this. There's nothing I'm telling you here that's under embargo. But the goal here is to be able to automatically organize and categorize data. And the reason we want to be able to do this is once you could do that, you can send different backup plans based on the data category, which then means you can be much more efficient and save costs, right? Because if you have something that really only needs to be backed up once a month, backing it up every day is just a waste of resources. Yes?
How are you categorizing data? What are the criteria that you're using? Is it, how often is it accessed simply to identify how frequently you should be protecting it? Or will it go beyond that to actually identify what is this data?
It's a combination of all of that. And we can follow up. I don't have the data here, but it uses machine learning to understand, one, frequency of access, two, data types, whether it's images or documents, words in those documents. It just, there's a number of criteria we're using. And one of the reasons we, of course, haven't shipped this yet is that's actually a fairly complex thing to figure out.
It's complex to get it right.
Yeah.
If you get it 80% accurate, then it's good by today's standards. You really need to get it up to about 90%.
Yeah.
Really
If
efficient
you get it
automatically.
wrong once, customers will immediately stop trusting it and turn it
Yeah.
off.
Yeah, no, I agree.
But what's more interesting probably is the ability to auto-index and auto-classify, so you can search rather than necessarily have it classify.
Right.
Being able to tag it and things, particularly audio-visual, where you can then put a transcript and index in and find stuff, rather than using it for full compliance or other purposes as well. So
Right.
try and limit the use cases. Don't try and claim it does too much.
Correct, and we'll do that. We have some working prototypes today, and the engine we use to use this is usually the cognitive services of a public cloud, like Azure. Actually, we have prototypes running both on Microsoft Azure and on Google Cloud, because they have the processing power you really need to do some of that. But it's a fair point. It's going to take a while to get this really good.
Is this going to be something that you have to run as a one-off to scan your
It'll be continuous.
automatically.
Yes, it'll be continuous.
Will you be able to run it in a what-if mode initially?
That's a good question.
Comfortable with it?
That's a good question. Since we haven't built it yet, I don't know, but I think I'll take that feedback and ask, and I'll look really smart because of you. No, that's a good piece of feedback. I'll talk to our product management guys and see.
You probably want it to be something like, tell them how long the monitoring phase for data gathering is going to be, then run it for a month, validating, and then give them, what if we have been doing this, you would have saved this, you would have, how many misses you would have had.
Yeah, no, it's a great idea. And for any enterprise that will want a proof of concept, they'll want to do that anyways.
Well, the other thing is that are you going to personalize the categorization in some fashion so that
You
either
have
the
to,
end customer...
otherwise.
Well, no, let me finish. So that either the customer can do it themselves because they've got special categories of information they want to search for and categorize and look for explicitly, or potentially your channel partners who are delivering this as a service can understand their customers first to help improve the whole recognition rate first time around. You know, so that they understand the partner, that they understand the customer, put in certain criteria to help the categorization with like a leg start on knowledge of the enterprise, the business that's being
Like it's a healthcare industry, so
Yeah.
there might be, it's a simple example, but...
I'm just delivering to your customer base in the SMB, but you know, I know this bunch of customers and they've got these similar requirements in terms of data categorization. You know, they may not recognize it, but I know them well enough to know that's what they should be doing. So therefore, if I can give this a kickstart first, it can help the machine learning actually identify patterns that it might have taken that a long time to actually get right in the first place.
No, it's a good, it's a,
But where
It's
should-
also a value add.
yeah, no, it's a good idea.
Where should we send the consultancy invoices?
No, this is great. Well, you've also told me I have a new presentation I can build just around this box and what we're doing. So I promise I'll commit to doing that.
We've
And
written an awful lot about this.
yeah, no, it is. And you know, if you take it on the extent, the Google chess player, Google Cloud chess player, Alpha Zero, it learned to be the best chess player in the world in 4 hours, right? Now, it's a very narrow scenario because
Yes,
it,
but it did that by monitoring millions of games that have been recorded over decades.
Right.
So you've got a data set that has been being prepared for it for the last 50 years.
right. Good point. So it really took 50 years and 4 hours, is what you're saying.
But apparently Watson's picked up foul language in the last few months, and IBM have been having to strip out.
This is a 5-year-old story where some idiot plugged the online jargon dictionary into it.
Really? Awesome.
So they would give it all the dictionaries they could to help it understand things, and they gave it Urban Dictionary.
I'm
What
going
do you
to,
expect?
Which it needs when it's doing natural.
When it's a teenager, it is going to just be cussing at you.
yeah, it's, I'm going to do AI talks from now on. They're more fun. Let's go to the next slide. The idea, just to close on that, the vision is that no one ever has to set their own backup plan again, right? You just hit run and it figures out what is the appropriate backup plan. Clearly not 2018, right? That's going to take longer.
And that's fairly wizard driven, so you can put your compliance requirements in terms of.
You just put GDPR and then you're...
Look at your company listing. Know your domain, but look at your company listing on one of the standard sites that says, okay, you are Aon Healthcare, therefore you're subject to HIPAA, therefore I will categorize this for you. Because if you have to manually categorize which bits of your company are and aren't subject to HIPAA, you might as well do a manual backup plan yourself in the first place.
Yep. Yeah. Absolutely agree. So I touched on the data platform. This is a very complex graph, but it does say, where did it say here? Oh, yeah. Deep dive. So this is the deep dive. Hands-on demos comes next. But what we did is we actually created this unified storage layer that we call Acronis Storage. And you'll be hearing a lot more about it this year. And we have all our backups are running on this storage. We have storage connectors within this storage layer to come out to either third-party storage, anything that's S3 compatible, as well as public clouds. And that means that you can either use this storage layer as a gateway and not even store anything here, or you can have multiple copies. And I'll share these slides with you as well. So, yeah.
Where they go in the notes.
Okay, good. Or is it me you're taking a picture of? And then on top of that is where you have these common components, which includes the UI, the roles, the events, everything that you need to manage a set of data protection services, backup being what we're known for, and then we're adding more. And over time, we actually want third parties to add as well. But today, they're all coming from us. Backup, today we have backup, disaster recovery, and file sync and share, 3 services. Last year, we only had 1. So, and then of course the management portal, which you'll see here, and everything is API driven. I thought when I joined Acronis, I wasn't going to be in the platform business because that's hard. And here I am back in the platform business. But it's very exciting. Next slide. So I wanted to touch on 2 areas of innovation we talked about a little bit because I think it's interesting, and since this is called Technology Live, I thought you'd find it interesting as well. One is active protection, which is the AI-based ransomware detection. So this is what you have in TrueImage, and you also have in Acronis Backup and Backup Cloud. So what it's doing is that our software is learning typical patterns of file access and throwing flags when it detects strange behavior. This is real time. The advantage to that is you don't have to wait for a signature file that tells you these things are nefarious. The other advantage is ransomware is getting more sophisticated, right? It's not just that you sometimes can't even pay the ransom, but they're doing really mean things like encrypting part of your file or doing it slowly so you don't notice. Or I read last week that one ransomware variant, even if you pay the ransom and you get your computer back, it still runs a backup process to do Bitcoin mining.
Yeah, we've seen a shift from actually trying to encrypt your data to just hijacking your CPU.
Right, and making money that way, right? And then you're going like, damn it, Acronis, why are you so slow? And it's like, it's not us. You've got, which is why by the way, this is why we're in this space, is because the moment you're protecting data, you actually have to go beyond just backup, but make sure the machine is in good shape so that you have a good experience.
So are you going to offer ways to integrate this with CM systems and other securities that I might have that might be monitoring, like my DLP or
Yes.
Yeah.
you know,
Yes, we are.
process that is allowed by somebody's role but that is not typical to their behaviour. So you catch Lewandowski the week that he downloads all of the self-driving car documents rather than 2 years later when he opens them.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. We will do that. And actually, if you go to the next slide, and then the automated recovery is basically you could set a switch that says if you detect ransomware, stop it, recover immediately, or you can say, flip a warning, you want to look first before you say no. And here, go ahead, next slide. So the way it works is that we have a white list of all the legitimate applications and processes, and then we use models of detection using cloud-based security AI. Today, that's actually Microsoft Azure that we're using. And then we just constantly update these models to make sure that you are protected. And the last few attacks, WannaCry, NotPetya, and what was the third one? I forget. That happened in the last 6 months. We detected all of them and protected anyone who was using active protection. So fairly sophisticated. And there's more, if you go to the next slide, I don't think I have it here. We're doing entropy analysis as well. It turns out that the way your bits and files are stored on a computer is really messy, which means that all of a sudden, if it becomes ordered, something weird has happened. And it's usually because somebody's encrypting your files and they're following a very specific order, and so you can catch that. There's other methods, I find this really fascinating, other methods where on its own there's different activities happening that won't trigger an alarm, but if you look at it as a whole, you realize that something bad's happening to your machine. So, and this all requires...
I still find it fascinating that the file system vendors have actually allowed this type of activity to happen, particularly with volume shadow copy, basically allowing the ransomware to drop all the previous good copies of the volume shadow copy, for example.
Yep,
It's just brain dead design.
so the... I won't comment on that. The challenges these big vendors have, including Microsoft, is that they have so many machines that for them to go tell you real time that you're being attacked, if it's a false positive or a false negative, that could shut down big portions of enterprises, people's work, and so they will always be slower to respond because of just the artifact of who they are in the operating system they have. But even Microsoft's latest ransomware solution doesn't go nearly as deep as we do.
Microsoft is almost unworkable because it doesn't pop up any warning that an application you're using is trying to access the protected folder. Do you want to allow it or not? You've actually no warning whatsoever, it just fails.
Yeah.
You've got to go in manually through a backdoor to add the apps you want to access the folder. It's just ridiculous.
It's ridiculous. I wish you were on a call with me, because I called the guys who do that at Microsoft, and they're like, we have our own solution. We don't need you. Okay, you're wrong, but oh well. So I put this slide up because I just want to make it clear we're not a security company, and we're not intending on entering the security market. So as soon as he comes in, he'll start talking. And so we actually are additive, and depending on the AV system you use, we can add more value. So we're just an extra layer of protection. And since it comes with your backup and now actually it comes free, there's just no reason not to use it. I'll touch on storage. I mentioned that. The version that's out today is 2.3. It is universal. It's much faster than traditional storage. We have something called Cloud RAID that allows you to, through software, control the level of resiliency that you need, depending on the importance of your data. It's the only storage product I know of that has blockchain protection built in. So any file you want to notarize, you can. We have hundreds of thousands of transactions already in the blockchain. And we've been using it for a very, very long time. Today, most of the usage is tied to backup and data protection. So we're not in there to, well, that's all I'll say.
So how do you handle the latency issues
With
of writing to blockchain? Because commits can take quite a while.
we have an interim step. So we'll group it all up and then do a bulk commit. It is a problem, which is one that we can't solve, right? We have to wait for the, let's call it the blockchain community, to figure that out. And we're fairly involved with them as just to help figure this out.
Would you look at moving to away from proof of work to something like silicon, trusted silicon?
Ethereum is proof of stake, proof of work, so that's kind of a different approach, but
Maybe.
Still a lot. No,
but you still have to have the coins.
yeah.
Yeah, it's maybe. We did create an abstraction layer, so as the technology improves, we'll...
Who has to have the ether to use the system? Do you provide the coins?
Yes, we do. We pay for it right now. It's all included. At some point, if there's enough volume, because the price has been going up, we'll have to use a different model. But today, this is still... I hesitate to use the word experimental, because clearly when something's in the blockchain, it is marked. It is, but we believe that it will be a major component of all technology in the future. And so to be able to be ahead of the game, you have to start early and then adapt as time goes on.
Yeah.
Some people might not agree with me.
Well, I don't believe that it will be, in your words, part of all technology.
It was a broad statement. That's fair. That's absolutely fair. Let's go on because we only have about 30 minutes, and you're more fun than me. So I'm going to touch on a couple of case studies with notarization. I can't tell you the company, but there is a company that is using Notary for log notarization. It has to do with autonomous vehicles. It's not Tesla, so I wish, but it's not. And the idea here is as cars become more and more autonomous, you're going to have to create a set of logs that you can prove haven't changed to dispute things that might need to be disputed. Next slide. Go on. Secure document exchange, I think, is self-obvious. And go ahead, GDPR. So we are doing work to make sure that our technology enables partners and customers to be GDPR compliant. Most of it was already there, but there's more that we added to allow controllers and processes to specify the data that needs to be handled in a particular way. We talked about data transfer rules. We're compliant with all of those already today. We just did this by design. Having data centers in the EU, you sort of know what's coming. Next slide. The security processing. The slides I send you shows you what the rules are and what we've done to enable customers to satisfy those rules. Now, because we host data, we will have to be GDPR compliant ourselves when that comes around in May, and we absolutely will be. There's a whole separate thread.
Are you pretty far down the road already?
Yeah, we are. Very far down the road. Except for the rules are changing still, right? So I can't say we're done, but we're pretty.
Well, it does say state of the art, so therefore it's never going to be done. You've got to continue.
You're right, but I lived Sarbanes-Oxley when I was at Microsoft, and this feels like Sarbanes-Oxley all over again. There's a set of rules. We're not going to tell you what they are. Not in terms of data protection, but the government imposing regulations that haven't been well defined and that it takes time to just go figure out. And if you don't do it right, you go to jail or get fined a lot of money. Next one. Data subject rights. We allow, see, this already is built into our product that you can export data. You can browse and look data and change it. Go on. And data breach policies, we make sure that we're protecting the data so that it's not breached. So it turns out all the work we've done towards anti-ransomware is a benefit for providers because the best way to not have to deal with the breach notification rules is to not have any, right? And then you don't have to notify. Go on. And then security processing, being able, we write all the audit logs, we have role-based access, all our own data centers, we let the user select where their data is stored. We don't do any cross-border processing. Even our management panel has a minimum amount of data needed and not anything very identifiable. Go on. And then the last slides here are just 3 customer stories here locally that I thought I'd point out. And since I want to give you quite a bit of time, and you'll have only about 20 minutes, I guess, these 3 examples are a little bit different. We have case studies you can find on our website to read, or we can send to you. BAE Systems had to do with having thousands of devices that needed to be identical around the world. And to be able to set up a device, they had a 300-page manual. When they installed our system, because we do full image snapshot, it moved down to 2 sides of an A4 page. And instead of taking days and months to deploy, you could literally do it within all machines within a couple of days. So in their case, it was really about keeping machines whole and always with the current build all the way up through the application layer and the data layer. BT Island was a different case. This one, I'm blanking out.
Hybrid.
Hybrid was Kent Police. BT Ireland, oh yeah, I remember now. BT Ireland, what they wanted was a secure partition on every device. These were PCs and servers, such that if something happened to the server, but the hard drive still functioned, you just push a button, it goes into that secure zone and snapshots a copy back to your machine and it's back to its original set. And it's much faster that way. And then, of course, they had another copy in their private cloud, let's call it that. So in case the whole system went down, they could still recover. But we're not yet at a point with networks that it's still faster to copy from one part of your hard drive to another part of your hard drive than over the wire. And then Kent Police had to do with the fact is that they had a heterogeneous environment, VMs, servers, PCs, and they needed one system to centrally manage it. Next slide. And here in the UK, I always love that we should have like a tick that changes over time, right? But we have over 200 partners and about 700 business customers already in the UK, and we're continuing to grow. And at this point, I think I'm going to give it to you.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, John.
I have one question.
Yeah.
What is the reason that your company, after 15 years, is still private held?
Why? So what happened in the history of the company is it was growing quite a bit. We actually filed an S3 to go public, I think about 5-6 years ago. But the company was focused on enterprise. And it was under a different CEO, not Sergey. And the business just went flat and actually started shrinking. And so since Sergey had his money in the company, he came back. And redoing a code base takes time. It took us about 3 years. And so now we're back to growth, double-digit growth, which we're very happy about. So who knows what will happen in the future, but that's why.
Okay, it's a bad experience.
Bad experience. Some bad decisions from some previous leaders, and needed to change the technology because the world today is very different than it was even 8 years ago.
And the great thing is Sergey doesn't need the money, so I don't think I'm floating.
Yeah, no, he doesn't. He'd be upset if, of course, Acronis won't go to zero overnight, but if he lost all his investment in Acronis. But he's fairly well funded. He started as a TV manufacturing company, and he made his first million before he was 20. And I found out he still has shares in that business, so it's still paying him. TVs. Anyways, go on.
Okay, thank you, John. Hi, everyone. My name is Bekir Wali. I'm Senior Surgeon in Acronis. So I have over 10 years experience in networking, disaster recovery, and data protection. So what I'm going to do, I'm not going to do a PowerPoint presentation. I think John has covered pretty much everything. And so what I would do is I'll go straight into the demo. So if you have any question during the demo, just feel free to ask. So this is the Acronis Data Cloud Platform. So I'm focusing today on the product which is specially designed for service providers. So John covered, we do have quite a range of products. So for on-premise customer or for business, for consumers, as well as that for service providers. So this is just targeting service provider only. So as you can see here on the slide, in terms of management, it's quite straightforward. So you can just use a browser, whether I'm using Chrome here, or Internet Explorer, or Firefox, in order to manage the platform. So in order to onboard the customer, it's quite straightforward. I'll show you how to create that easily. And this is what it looks like. So right here, you can see the dashboard in here. This is give you an overall of the machine which has been protected in here. So before that, let me just talk about in terms of deployment, how easy it is. So there's 3 types of deployment for partners. So there is Acronis hosted, that's one method, so which means everything is hosted within Acronis data center. So the management part and the data will be hosted in Acronis data center. That's one, which is the most simple method, obviously, because service provider do not need to have any hardware. They can just simply start protecting the customer's data. That's the most popular one. So next one is a hybrid one, which means Acronis Management Center is an Acronis data center. However, the storage will be held within the service provider storage data center. So this one is also most popular because obviously, especially if the service provider have their own data center, they can simply easily upsell or sell more storage. So that's the second most popular one. The third one is the service provider hosted, which means everything, including the Acronis management portal and the data will be held within the data center. And that's obviously, we don't see that many because it requires to have a big team in order to manage and maintain that as well. So that's the third one. So today what I'm going to focus obviously is Acronis hosted. Everything is in our cloud data center. Once obviously the partner signed or registered to trial, they will receive an email and they can simply set the password and they will have access similar to the console, what you can see here. So from here, again, John explained, is a multi-tier and multi-tenant architecture. What that means is it gives an ability to manage it, all partners within the one management console. So from here, currently we're providing, as you can see, backup and disaster recovery, as well as that file and sync share solution within one management portal. So moving forward in the future, we'll be adding e-discovery and archiving as well. So it's obviously based in the cloud. So any improvement we're doing, any feature we're adding, simply will be able to deploy it into the customer environment, and they can simply update it, and they can, more importantly, cross-sell, upsell to their end user and customer as well. So,
yeah, I just had a comment here.
Sure.
This is designed for service providers. We've seen a few instances where enterprises are actually buying this instead of our on-premise product. And one of the reasons they told us is that if you don't have a management panel on the server, you've just reduced the attack surface because no one can physically log into a machine and touch your backups. You have to go through the console. It was sort of interesting.
Are you building on the MSP relationships you already had with products like Blisk?
Yes. Yes. As a matter of fact, we just launched an integration with Plesk about a month and a half ago. Actually, the official launch was in January, so it was last month.
Yep. Okay, so that's overall. So you can see the number of workstation servers and virtual machine protected within the Acronis Backup Cloud. And also you can see the file exchanger as well. So I'll go through in detail in terms of managing those. So if I click on the left-hand side, as we already talked about, it gives you an ability to manage partner, customer within one management console. So from here, I can simply here, we have obviously created quite a few demos, you can see here, for customers and for partner. So on the right-hand side, you have an ability here to create a client in here. So it could be a customer, a partner, or a user. So for example, if I just want to create a customer in here, I can just simply provide a name in here. So just provide a name here. So quickly just call a customer demo, and I can set it as a trial, next. And here, this is the interesting part. You have an ability here to be able to enable backup and also disaster recovery and file sync share solution. The advantage with that is, let's say I'm just setting a trial here for one customer and they don't need the file share solution. I can just simply disable that. Also, I can also set a quota for that specific customer as well. And in addition to that, I can also adjust it here. If they don't need a mobile device backup or Office 365, I can just simply take that one away as well. So it's flexible in terms of creating that.
What does local backup mean?
Right, good question. So this is one actually great selling point we have within Acronis Backup Cloud Platform. So not only it gives you an ability to back up to a cloud, it also gives you an ability to store it into customer.
So you could have an appliance sitting on your customer site to act as a cache where they've got a local copy as well as potentially replicating it to your service provider's cloud or to your cloud.
Yes, exactly.
And we actually recommend that.
Yes, yeah.
So right.
For the exactly for the quick restore, of single email or the whole infrastructure, it's easier to be able to restore it quickly from there. And in case of DR, we will say go to the data center.
Also in case of having a falling out with your service provider.
Yes.
Call me paranoid if you like.
It does happen, yes.
They never go bankrupt, right?
It wasn't that I was thinking though, I was just literally thinking that, sometimes you have disagreements about billing or whatever, and if they just say we're cutting off the service and you want to recover something, then
You have a copy.
Yeah,
I've always got a copy.
that makes sense. So yeah, just provide an email address and click done, and the account should be automatically created, and it will be added within that. So once that's done, we should be able to see there's a bit of a delay in here, assuming it's to do with probably internet connection. Here we go, that's done. So the account has been set. So what is that service manager, the service provider can do from here? It's easy to do that because you can simply drill down from here and manage that particular customer as well. So I can go manage services in there. And from here, I can actually see, you can see from the left-hand side, you noticed the branding is yellow. So for that particular customer, I can set the branding as well. So I will talk about that in terms of how you can do that as well. So if I want to go back to the partner level, I can simply click Manage Services, and that will take me back. So you can do this for each customer and partner. So it's a multi-tenant. So that's a great selling point as well.
Are the users on this screen the actual end users whose data is being backed up, or is it administrative users of the system?
Yeah, so good question. So you have an ability to create administrator for those end user customers. So they can have the ability to be able to do that as well.
So it's not putting in the identity of all of the end customers themselves that you might be protecting?
Correct. Yeah. Okay, so in terms of what you can do from here, users obviously created, as you said, and storage here, you can also specify here the type of storage in here. Obviously, currently I'm backing up to Acronis Data Center, but it is an ability to add a storage as well in here. Especially for the hybrid environment, they can use Acronis Storage in their own environment as well. Branding here is, as I mentioned earlier on, is possible to brand, so you can customize the logo, the color scheme, and the company name, and also the email address. Pretty much you can do anything you need from here as well. Settings, there's a few security settings in here as well, which you're able to enable in terms of specifying the IP address where you can access logging control as well. Integration is a key. John talked about already. We have integration with a lot of partners, third-party partners, so the likes of Odin and also ConnectWise and Etsy as well. So it gives us an ability monitoring and provisioning. It can be done easily using the partners as well. So from the console, again, it's possible to set a reporting, whether it's a scheduled reporting you have or custom reporting is possible to set. And from here, you can also adjust what kind of reporting you require, whether it's all customers and partner or customer partner. So it's possible to adjust in terms of the requirement as well. So from here, what I want to do is you can manage, as I said, easily the backups and the services from here. So I've created an account in here. Just want to show you the backup itself, how it looks like.
You're just hitting that now on LastPass.
Okay. So let me just go to manage services in here. And so you should, now what I'm going to show you is that was the experience from a service provider management perspective. Let me show you what it looks like from an end user perspective in terms of backing up and restore, how easy it is. So as you can see here, machines has been added. So in terms of adding the agent into the management console, you can simply add in here, and you can add devices in here as well. So as John talked about already, we support 20 plus platforms. So physical machines, Windows, Linux, Mac, as well as virtual environments. So you have VMware, Citrix, Red Hat, and Parallel, and as well as that application as well, SQL Exchange is also supported. On top of that, we support mobile devices as well. So obviously, some of them is agent-based, some of them is agentless as well. Yeah, so especially
how do you get the agents out there?
So we can push it directly, install it, or group policy will give you an ability to do that as well. So you have flexibility on that. Good question. So once the agent's deployed, from here, we have a tab in here which gives simplicity again. Acronis focus on simplicity in terms of how customers manage it. So you can able to adjust here a simple view, which obviously customers can see for a small number of machines, easy to see that. And for a large number of machines, you have the table view, which you can do it like that as well. So if I just quickly show in terms of running a backup, again, as you can see here, you can simply create a backup or disaster recovery, honorable recover. Oh, here is also you can enable the active protection tab from here as well, which is John talks about it. So how easy to create a backup? You can simply create a backup. I know you all have great experience with backup, so I'm not going to show you how to create a backup, but this is just to show you what it looks like. Once it's actually loaded, so you should be able to see, you can choose the backup plan automatically or just create a new backup plan. So from here, gives you an ability to back up the entire machine of a physical machine or a virtual machine as well. So it gives you an ability to restore, whether from the same image, you can able to drill down, restore file and folder from the same, or in terms of bare metal restore of the whole image as well. So that's flexibility in there. So you can back up the entire machine, for example, and application aware. You can simply flick the switch and you can able to enable application aware backup as well. So that's how easy it is in terms of creating a backup. And obviously where to backup, again, is quite straightforward. You can choose the location, so whether it's Acronis data center or the customer premise as well. So you can run a scheduling, also how often you want to run the backup, and also retention, how long you want to keep it. And encryption, of course, is important, especially if you're creating a backup to a cloud as well. So we obviously recommend that should be encrypted if you're doing a cloud. So that is it, creating a backup. So I'll just cancel that. In terms of...
Just out of curiosity, on your encryption, is the default, is that screen inferred off rather than on?
Is by default is off. The customer will have an ability or a choice to configure it, but yeah.
And the keys are created by the customer?
No, it's not managed by anyone. It's just for authentication. The key is not kept anywhere. So it's more secure. If you lose anything, you got no access in it. So once it's set up, it's not kept in anywhere.
Are you looking at providing a bring your own key service for people who are using that elsewhere?
Good question.
Like Azure Key Vault?
So far, I haven't seen anything in the pipeline where it's coming, but
I haven't seen anything.
It's something probably we should bring up.
Something you need to look at.
We should look at. Okay.
Yeah, that's good feedback.
It'll fall out of some people's GDPR.
Yep.
I see. Okay, that's a good point. Okay.
We have about 5 minutes, so you probably
Cool. I think maybe
show recovery.
The recovery is the most important part, of
Yes.
course. And we have a question already, of course. Backup without recovery is not point. So what we can do from here? All right. So you can, once you create an image of a machine, you can simply restore the entire machine or file and folder, drill it down into. And also, if it is an application aware backup, you can recover the entire database, or they can change a mailbox as well. So
the entire mailbox, not individual elements from within the mailbox?
Within the mailbox.
My mailbox is big.
So, I mean, if I probably, we don't have time. If I go now, it probably takes time, but you can simply go in and see the inbox, the calendar items.
So it's not the entire mailbox, it's elements within it. It's an individual message, it's an individual appointment.
You have a choice.
Yeah,
that's
fine. It's
you
just
have a
that
choice.
it wasn't clear from there that
Yes.
that was the case.
Yeah. Sure. So the choices is obviously, I understand it could take forever to do it. So, and also we have an ability to run VM as a backup. So the ability to spin a virtual machine in a cloud instance. So that technically we see that more useful, especially in a test environment. So if customer doing upgrade or patch Wednesday, every Wednesday do. So to make sure you have that backed up, and also you can able to test it from here as well. There's more ways to recover in here. You can have, in case of, let's say, bare metal restore, for example, you have a physical thing. I know everyone is going to the cloud these days, but in case of there's still hybrid environments in there. So if you need to restore from dissimilar hardware, that's actually one of the use cases John talked about it. The reason BA system is going through with Acronis is the ability to restore to a dissimilar hardware using the Acronis universal restore functionality. That's the key selling point for Acronis when it comes to especially physical machine. Again, not only Acronis provides backup and recovery, it also provides migration as well. So if customers are migrating from a physical machine to a physical machine or a virtual machine, we also provide. There's a lot of tools out there, but Acronis bring it within the product portfolio as well. I think that's pretty much, and obviously you can see here the application aware in here, and then the backup in there, the activities in there as well. And obviously disaster recovery here, I just want to quickly touch, it's one platform within one management console. It's not a different code, it's one thing. So from here, you can just simply enable disaster recovery for the server that you protect, and to create it, again, it's quite straightforward. You can just simply create a virtual machine in the cloud. You can able to fail back or fail over as well.
And does the service provider have a front page where it will tell them of any failed backups or failed recoveries attempts without having to dig down into each account and each device all the way through? Because that will be a pain in the neck.
Oh, to see the reporting.
Yeah,
just dashboard.
Yeah.
I think the service provider.
Yeah, so we are working on the next model, which we can show you a dashboard, which shows you easily for each one, instead of drilling down to each one.
Right, because I need to know, is this customer protected or not? And if they're not, what the hell happened?
Yes, yes.
And equally, have they tried to do a recovery? Did it work or not? If it didn't, why not? So
Okay.
I need that at a high level rather than have to dig through every single account.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, you can, I think we are pretty much done, so I will follow up with you on that. So
Yeah, we have some basic functionality today. It's being significantly enhanced for that reason, to basically make whoever's doing the administration be proactive as opposed to reactive.
I spent 18 years as an IT pro, fighting with backup all the time. I then spent 3 years working on the dark side selling backup solutions.
So I'm on the dark side. Okay. Well, we're getting the anchor here. Thank you very much. By the way, it was very interactive. If we didn't answer some of your questions or you have thoughts, you have my email, and happy to continue talking.